The Great Hall of Nexus Prime had never been so quiet. Representatives from 43 different species sat in their seats and fear hung in the air like smoke. The lights were dim. The massive screens on the walls showed maps of the galaxy, and on those maps a dark stain was spreading. The hive was coming. Ambassador Al stood at the center of the hall. He was a tall creature with blue skin and 4 eyes that never stopped moving. His voice shook as he spoke to the council. "We have lost 17 worlds," he said. 17 civilizations, gone, they do not negotiate, they do not make peace, they only consume. The screens changed to show images that made several ambassadors look away. Each one a living nightmare of teeth and claws and hunger. They moved through space like a plague, and wherever they went, nothing survived. "Our combined fleets are gathering at Epsilon Reach," Al continued. "It is our last line of defense before the core worlds. If we fall there, the galaxy falls with us." He paused and looked around the room. His 4 eyes stopped on the human delegation. It was a small group, only 3 people, sitting in the back corner. They had been quiet through the entire meeting. "We need everyone," Al said directly to them. "The humans must commit their full fleet. Without Earth ships, we cannot hold the line." The human delegation did not move. The other species watched them with a mix of hope and frustration. Humans were strange. They had only been part of the galactic community for 60 years, but in that time they had earned a reputation that no one quite understood. They were young and small, and there was a dangerous place filled with predators and disasters. Yet somehow, they had never lost a war. Finally, one of the humans stood up. Her name was Emma Vance, and she was a commander in Earth's naval intelligence. She was not tall. She was not physically impressive. She had short dark hair and calm brown eyes, and she moved with the easy confidence of someone who had seen many terrible things and survived them all. "Earth will not be sending our fleet to Epsilon Reach," she said. The hall erupted. Ambassadors shouted in a dozen different languages. Some called humans cowards. Others demanded that Earth be expelled from the coalition. The noise was deafening. Emma waited. She did not raise her voice. She did not show any emotion. She simply stood there until the shouting died down and everyone was looking at her again. "Earth will not be sending our fleet," she repeated, "because it will not be necessary. I will be handling this situation personally." Al's mandibles clicked in confusion. "I do not understand. You will handle the hive, one human." "Yes. Commander Vance, I mean no disrespect, but the hive consists of billions of warriors. They have destroyed armadas. They have consumed planets. One person cannot fight them." Emma smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something that no one else in the room could understand. "I am not asking for your permission, Ambassador. I am informing you as a courtesy. In 72 hours, the hive will no longer exist. I recommend you pull your ships back from Epsilon Reach. The area is about to become very dangerous." She turned and walked toward the door. Her 2 companions followed her without a word. "Wait," Al called out. "This is madness. How can one human destroy an entire hive?" Emma stopped at the door. She looked back over her shoulder. "Have you ever wondered why humans fight alone so often, Ambassador? Why we send single operatives when other species send armies?" "I have wondered, yes. It is because we learned something a long time ago on our Earth is a dangerous place. Everything there wants to kill you. The animals, the weather, even the plants. We did not survive by being the strongest or the fastest. We survived by being the most stubborn, the most creative, and the most willing to do whatever it takes." She paused. "When a human tells you they will handle something alone, it is not a boast. It is a warning. You should be afraid for whatever we are about to face, not for us." She left. The door closed behind her. The great hall remained silent for a long moment. Finally, an old ambassador from the Ani collective spoke. He was a small creature, covered in gray fur, and he had been part of the galactic community for over 300 years. "I have seen humans fight," he said quietly. "Once, long ago, a human soldier was trapped on one of our colony worlds when raiders attacked. He was alone against 200 enemies." "What happened?" Al asked. "He killed them all, every single one. When we found him, he was sitting in the middle of the bodies, eating a ration bar. He looked annoyed that it took us so long to arrive." The hall was silent again. "Pull the ships back from Epsilon Reach," another ambassador said. "If the human says she will handle it, we should let her." "And if she fails?" Al asked. "Then we will die anyway. But I do not think she will fail. I have learned to trust that look in a human's eyes. It is the look of someone who has already decided how the story will end." The order went out across the galaxy. The Coalition fleet began to withdraw from Epsilon Reach. No one knew what Emma Vance was planning. No one knew how she intended to fight billions of alone. But they knew one thing. When a human said they would handle something solo, the galaxy had learned to step back and watch. Because whatever came next was going to be terrible and beautiful and final. And deep in space, moving alone through the darkness, Emma Vance was preparing for war. She had 72 hours to save the galaxy. She had done more with less time before. They had no idea what was coming for them. They had consumed civilizations. They had destroyed worlds. They had never faced a human who had decided they needed to die. They were about to learn why the galaxy feared that look in human eyes. The dead star system had no name on any map. It was a place of cold darkness, where the burned-out remains of an ancient sun drifted through empty space. Nothing lived here. Nothing was supposed to exist here at all. But hidden in the debris field, buried under millions of kilometers of dead rock and frozen gas, was a small station. It had no official designation. In the classified files of Earth's military, it was simply called the Quiet Place. Emma Vance docked her ship and stepped into the station's airlock. The lights were dim and the air was cold. She had been here many times before, but she never got used to the feeling. This was a place where humanity kept its darkest secrets. A man was waiting for her in the corridor. His name was Jake, and he was old in a way that had nothing to do with years. His hair was gray and his eyes were tired, but he moved with the careful precision of someone who had spent a lifetime in dangerous places. "Ghost Protocol has been approved," Jake said, handing her a small data chip. "Full authorization, no limits, no oversight." Emma took the chip and put it in her pocket. "How much do they know about my plan?" "Nothing. They do not want to know. Earth Command has learned that when it comes to you, it is better not to ask questions." They walked together through the empty corridors. The station was mostly automated. Only a handful of people knew it existed, and even fewer had ever been inside. "The Wraith program," Jake said. "I never thought we would activate it for real." They gave us no choice. The Wraith program was humanity's answer to a galaxy full of species that fought with massive fleets and overwhelming numbers. While other civilizations built bigger and bigger ships, humans had taken a different path. They had created something unique, something terrifying. They had created soldiers who could fight entire wars alone. The program had started decades ago, when humanity first realized that they would never be able to match the galactic powers in raw numbers. Earth's population was small. Their resources were limited. They needed a different approach. So they found volunteers, people who were willing to undergo procedures that would change them forever. Neural implants that enhanced their reflexes and thinking speed. Genetic modifications that made them stronger and faster. Training that pushed them to the absolute limits of human potential and then pushed them further. The result was the Wraith operatives. There were only 12 of them in existence. Each one was worth more than an entire fleet. Emma Vance was Wraith 7. They reached the armory, and Jake opened the door with his handprint. Inside, laid out on a long table, was Emma's equipment. "We have updated everything since your last mission," Jake said. "The stealth suit is now 98% effective against all known detection methods. The quantum blade has been sharpened to a monomolecular edge. It will cut through anything." Emma picked up the suit and examined it. It was black and smooth, made of materials that did not exist in nature. When activated, it would bend light around her body, making her nearly invisible. "What about the neural disruptors?" she asked. "Custom designed for biology. The hive operates on a psychic network. Every is connected to every other through the queen. These disruptors will scramble that connection locally. It will blind them, confuse them, cut them off from the collective mind." Emma nodded and picked up one of the small devices. It was no bigger than her thumb, but it could disrupt the psychic link of thousands of at once. "And this?" She pointed to a small sphere at the end of the table. It was silver and smooth, and it seemed to pull at the light around it. Jake's face became serious. "Singularity grenade, prototype. When detonated, it creates a localized black hole that lasts for approximately 3 seconds. Everything within 100 meters is destroyed completely. Side effects: if you are too close, you die. If you are too far, you do not. There is no middle ground." Emma picked up the grenade and attached it to her belt. Perfect. She spent the next 6 hours preparing. She checked every piece of equipment 3 times. She reviewed the intelligence reports on the hive, memorizing the layout of the queens, studying the patrol patterns of the warrior drones. She ate a meal and slept for exactly 4 hours. Her implants would keep her awake and alert for the rest of the mission. When she was ready, Jake walked her to the hangar where her ship waited. It was called the Whisper, and it was the smallest combat vessel ever built by human hands. It had no weapons, no shields, no armor. It had only one purpose: to get her close without being seen. "Emma," Jake said as she climbed into the cockpit, "the Queen has been alive for 100,000 years. She has consumed civilizations older than humanity. Are you certain you can do this?" Emma looked at him. "The Queen is old. She has never lost. She has never faced anything that could challenge her. That is her weakness." "How so?" "She has forgotten what it means to be afraid. She has forgotten what it feels like to be prey." Emma's eyes were cold and calm. "I am going to remind her." The Whisper's engines powered up. The hangar doors opened, revealing the endless darkness of space. "Good luck," Jake said. "Luck has nothing to do with it," Emma replied. "They made a mistake when they threatened our galaxy. Now they are going to pay for it." The ship launched into the void. Jake watched until it disappeared, then turned and walked back into the station. He had seen Wraith operatives go on missions before. He had seen them do impossible things. But this was different. This was one human against billions. This was a single soldier against the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. He sat down at his console and sent a coded message to Earth Command. "Ghost is away. 72 hours until resolution. Recommend all coalition forces maintain distance from target area." Then he did the only thing he could do. He waited. Deep in space, Emma Vance flew toward the hive. She was alone. She was facing an enemy that had never been defeated. And she was smiling. Because she knew something that did not. She knew that humans did not measure victory by the size of their armies or the power of their weapons. Humans measured victory by one simple question: are you willing to do whatever it takes? Emma Vance was willing, and that made her the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. The Hive fleet was the most terrifying thing Emma had ever seen, and she had seen many terrible things in her life. It stretched across 3 light-years of space. Thousands of moved together in perfect coordination, each one a living creature made of chitin and muscle and teeth. The smallest ships were the size of buildings. The largest were the size of small moons. And at the center of it all, pulsing with dark energy, was the Queen's. Emma studied it through her ship's sensors as she approached. The Queen's vessel was enormous, a twisted mass of organic matter that looked like something from a nightmare. It had no clear shape, just a constantly shifting collection of limbs and eyes and mouths. Deep inside it, protected by billions of warriors, the Queen waited. That was Emma's target. Kill the Queen, and the entire hive would die with her. The whisper slipped through the outer perimeter of the hive fleet without being detected. They had many ways of finding enemies, but they all relied on the same basic idea. Look for large groups of ships, look for energy signatures, look for threats that made sense. They were not looking for a single tiny vessel with no weapons and almost no power signature. They were not looking for a ghost. Emma brought her ship close to the Queen's and found a growth node on its underside. It was a weak point in the creature's armor, a place where new tissue was being generated. She matched the ship's speed with extended a docking tube, and burned through the outer membrane with a focused plasma cutter. The inside of was like being swallowed by a living thing. The walls were wet and warm. They pulsed with a slow rhythm, like a heartbeat. The air was thick with strange smells, chemicals designed to calm workers and confuse any prey that somehow made it inside. Emma's implants filtered out the chemicals. Her stealth suit activated, bending light around her body until she was nearly invisible. She moved forward into the darkness. The corridors of were not built in straight lines. They curved and twisted, following the organic structure of the creature. Emma had memorized the general layout from intelligence reports, but the details were different. The ship was alive, and it changed constantly. She encountered her first after 10 minutes. It was a worker drone, a small creature about the size of a dog, with 6 legs and no eyes. It relied entirely on the psychic network to navigate. Emma pressed herself against the wall and held her breath as it passed within arm's reach. It did not see her. It did not sense her. It continued on its way, completely unaware that death was standing right beside it. Emma moved deeper. The next 6 hours were the longest of her life. She moved through like a shadow, avoiding patrols, slipping past checkpoints, hiding in dark corners when the corridors became too crowded. They were everywhere: workers, warriors, drones of all shapes and sizes. There was a city, and Emma was an invisible intruder. She found her first target after 3 hours, a neural relay cluster. It was a room filled with organic cables, all connected to a central node that pulsed with psychic energy. This was one of the points that connected to their queen. Destroy it, and thousands of warriors would be cut off from the collective mind. Emma placed a neural disruptor on the central node and activated it. The effect was immediate. Throughout that section of suddenly stopped moving. They stumbled and fell, their connection to the hive severed. They were still alive, but they were blind and confused, unable to coordinate or communicate. Emma moved on before anyone could respond. She destroyed 2 more relay clusters over the next 3 hours. Each time, another section of went dark. The Queen had to know something was wrong by now, but she could not find the source. Her warriors searched everywhere, but they were looking for an army, not a single human. Emma was getting close to the Queen's chamber when her luck ran out. She was moving through a narrow corridor when a warrior turned a corner directly in front of her. It was a massive creature, 3 meters tall, covered in armored plates and armed with claws that could cut through steel. Its compound eyes swept across the corridor, and for a moment, Emma thought she was safe. Then the creature's head turned directly toward her. Its mandibles clicked. It could not see her with its eyes, but warriors had other senses. It could smell her. It could feel the tiny vibrations of her heartbeat. It screamed. The sound was not just noise. It was a psychic alarm, broadcast through the entire hive. Every in the suddenly knew exactly where Emma was. Emma moved. Her quantum blade came out of its sheath in a blur of motion. The warrior's head separated from its body before it could attack, but more were coming. She could hear them, thousands of feet pounding against the organic floor, rushing toward her from every direction. She ran. The corridors filled with. They came from everywhere, warriors and workers and drones, all focused on a single target. Emma's stealth suit was useless now. Speed was all that mattered. She activated her combat protocols. Her implants pushed her body beyond normal human limits. She moved faster than the eye could follow, her blade cutting through everything in her path. Bodies fell around her, but more kept coming. 10 warriors blocked a corridor. Emma killed them in 3 seconds. 20 more came from behind. She threw a neural disruptor and watched them collapse in confusion, then ran over their bodies. The Queen's chamber was close now. Emma could feel the psychic pressure building, the Queen's mind pressing against her thoughts. The creature knew she was coming. The creature was waiting. Emma did not slow down. She cut through the last group of warriors and found herself in front of a massive organic door. It was sealed, locked, protected by the Queen's will. She placed her last neural disruptor on the door and activated it. The psychic lock shattered. The door began to open. Behind her, the corridor was filling with thousands of them, then tens of thousands. They had stopped attacking and were simply watching her, waiting. The Queen wanted to face this human personally. Emma stepped through the door. The Queen's chamber opened before her, vast and dark and terrible. And in the center, surrounded by 100,000 warriors, the Queen of the Hive waited to meet the human who had dared to challenge her. Emma smiled. She had come so far, she had fought so hard, and now, finally, she was exactly where she needed to be. The real battle was about to begin. The Queen's chamber was larger than any space Emma had ever seen inside a living creature. It stretched out for kilometers in every direction, a vast cathedral of flesh and bone and darkness. The walls were lined with thousands of eyes, all watching, all waiting. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into shadow. And in the center of it all, the Queen waited. She was enormous. Her body filled the middle of the chamber like a mountain of living tissue. Hundreds of limbs extended from her form, some ending in claws, others in sensory organs, others in mouths that never stopped whispering. Her eyes numbered in the thousands, arranged in clusters across her body, and every single one of them was focused on Emma. "Human," the Queen spoke. The word did not come from any mouth. It appeared directly in Emma's mind, cold and ancient and filled with a power that made her skull ache. This was how the Queen communicated, through pure psychic force. "You have come far," the Queen continued. "Further than any prey has ever reached. I am curious." Emma did not answer. She was studying the chamber, calculating distances, counting the warriors that lined the walls. There were at least 100,000 of them, standing perfectly still, waiting for their Queen's command. "You have killed many of my children," the Queen said. "You have destroyed 3 of my neural relays. You have caused more damage in 6 hours than any enemy has caused in 10,000 years. For this, I should end you slowly." "Then why haven't you?" Emma asked aloud. "Because I want to understand. I have consumed 17 civilizations. I have devoured species that had existed for millions of years before your kind learned to walk upright. I have faced fleets of thousands of ships, armies of billions of soldiers, and none of them have ever reached me." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "But you, a single human, a creature from a small planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy, you walked through my hive as if it were nothing. How?" Emma took a step forward. The warriors around her tensed but did not attack. The Queen had not given the order. "Do you know why humans are different?" Emma said. "Why we fight alone when other species fight together?" "I have wondered. It is because we evolved on a world that hated us. Everything on Earth is designed to kill. The animals, the plants, the weather, even the water. We did not survive because we were strong. We survived because we refused to die." She took another step. "You have lived for 100,000 years. You have never lost. You have never faced anything that could threaten you. That has made you comfortable. It has made you slow. It has made you forget what it means to be afraid." The queen laughed. The sound echoed through Emma's mind like thunder. "Afraid, I am the queen of the hive. I have consumed worlds, I have." "You have never faced a human who has decided you need to die," Emma interrupted. "That is different. That is something you cannot prepare for." The queen's amusement faded. Her psychic presence pressed harder against Emma's mind, searching, probing, trying to understand this strange creature that stood before her without fear. "You cannot win," the queen said. "Even if you somehow killed me, my children would tear you apart. You would die in this chamber." "Maybe," Emma admitted, "but you would die first, and that is all that matters." The queen's eyes flickered. For the first time in 100,000 years, she felt something she had almost forgotten. "Doubt." "What are you?" she whispered. "I am a human," Emma said, "and we do not know when to quit." The queen attacked. Her psychic assault hit Emma like a wall of fire. It was not a physical blow, but a mental one, a force of pure will designed to shatter her mind and leave her an empty shell. The queen had destroyed entire civilizations with this power. She had broken the minds of billions. Emma's implants screamed warnings. Her vision blurred. She felt her thoughts beginning to fragment, her memories scattering like leaves in a storm. The pain was unimaginable. But she did not fall. Humans had evolved on a death world. They had spent millions of years fighting against creatures that wanted to eat them, diseases that wanted to kill them, a planet that seemed determined to end their existence. They had developed something that no other species possessed. They had developed spite. Pure, concentrated, burning spite. Emma pushed back. She did not have psychic powers. She did not have the queen's ancient strength. But she had something else. She had the stubborn refusal to surrender that had kept her ancestors alive through ice ages and plagues and predators. She took a step forward. The queen increased her assault. The pain doubled, tripled, became something beyond description. Emma's nose bled. Her ears bled. Her implants were burning out one by one. She took another step. "Impossible," the queen hissed. "No mind can resist me, no creature." "I am not resisting you," Emma gasped. "I am ignoring you." She reached for the singularity grenade on her belt. The queen saw the movement and understood. She screamed a command to her warriors, ordering them to attack, to stop this human before she could. Too late. Emma pulled the pin. "Here is the thing about humans," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "We are willing to die for what we believe in. We are willing to sacrifice everything. And when we decide something needs to end, it ends." She threw the grenade. It sailed through the air, a small silver sphere, almost beautiful in its simplicity. It landed at the base of the queen's massive body. "No," the queen said, "you cannot." The grenade detonated. For 3 seconds, a black hole existed in the center of the queen's chamber. It was small, barely 10 meters across, but it was absolute. Everything within 100 meters was pulled into it, crushed into nothing, erased from existence. The queen did not have time to scream. The black hole collapsed as quickly as it had formed. Where the queen had been, there was now only empty space. The massive body, the thousands of eyes, the ancient mind that had ruled the hive for 100,000 years, all gone. Emma was thrown backward by the force of the collapse. She hit the ground hard and felt something break inside her. Pain flooded her body, but she did not care. She looked up. The warriors that had filled the chamber were falling. Without the queen's psychic connection, they had no coordination, no purpose. They collapsed where they stood, their minds empty, their bodies shutting down. Emma laughed. It hurt, but she laughed anyway. She had done it. One human, alone, against the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. And she had won. Now she just had to survive long enough for someone to find her. The Hive fleet died in hours. Across 3 light-years of space, turned on each other. Without the Queen's psychic coordination, they had no orders, no purpose, no understanding of friend or enemy. They fired their weapons randomly, crashing into each other, tearing themselves apart. The greatest threat the galaxy had ever known destroyed itself in a storm of chaos and confusion. The Coalition fleet watched from a safe distance. They had pulled back to Epsilon Reach as Emma had told them, and now they could only stare in disbelief at what was happening. "This is impossible," Ambassador Al whispered from the bridge of his flagship. "One human did this. One human destroyed the entire Hive." No one answered him. There was nothing to say. 3 days later, a search and rescue team found Emma Vance. She was drifting in a small escape pod that she had built herself from pieces of the dead. Her body was broken. Her implants had burned out completely. She had 3 cracked ribs, a collapsed lung, internal bleeding in 4 places, and damage to her brain that would have killed anyone else. But she was alive, and when the rescue team opened the pod, she was smiling. "Took you long enough," she said. They brought her to the medical station at Nexus Prime, where the best doctors in the galaxy worked to save her life. For 2 weeks, she floated between life and death. Her body had been pushed far beyond its limits. The damage was severe. But humans were stubborn, and Emma Vance was the most stubborn human of all. She survived. The victory celebration was held 1 month later, when Emma was finally strong enough to attend. Representatives from every surviving species in the Coalition gathered in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime. It was the same room where she had stood and told them she would handle the Alone. Now she stood there again, but this time she was not alone. The human delegation had sent a full team led by Admiral Cole himself. Emma stood beside him, still weak, still recovering but standing. Ambassador Al approached her. His 4 eyes were wet with emotion. "Commander Vance," he said, "I do not have words. What you did, it should have been impossible." "Nothing is impossible," Emma replied. "Some things are just very difficult." How did you do it?" Emma thought about the question. She thought about the 6 hours she had spent crawling through She thought about the pain of the Queen's psychic assault. She thought about the moment when she had thrown the grenade, knowing that she would probably die. "I did it because someone had to," she said, "and I was the one who was there." Al's mandibles clicked. But why alone? Why not ask for help? Admiral Cole stepped forward. "May I answer that, Ambassador?" Al nodded. "You all evolved on gentle worlds," the Admiral said. "Worlds with stable climates and peaceful ecosystems. You learned to work together because that was how you survived. Cooperation was natural to you." He paused and looked around the room. Humans did not have that luxury. Earth is a death world. Everything there is trying to kill you all the time. We learned something different. We learned that sometimes, when everything is against you, one person with enough determination can change everything. One person who refuses to give up, who refuses to accept defeat, who keeps fighting long after any sane creature would have surrendered. He put his hand on Emma's shoulder. "That is why humans fight alone. Not because we think we are better than everyone else, but because we know that when it matters most, when the situation is truly impossible, the only thing you can rely on is yourself." The room was silent. Every species was watching, listening, trying to understand. "Commander Vance did not defeat the Hive because she was stronger than them," the Admiral continued. "She defeated them because she was more stubborn. She decided they needed to die, and nothing in the galaxy was going to stop her from making that happen." Al turned back to Emma. "Is this true? You simply decided?" Emma smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was still fire in her eyes. "The Queen asked me the same thing," she said. She could not understand how one human could challenge her. She had lived for 100,000 years. She had consumed civilizations. She thought she was invincible. What did you tell her? I told her that she had made a mistake. She had forgotten what it meant to be prey. She had forgotten what it felt like to be hunted. Emma's voice was calm and cold. I reminded her. The celebration continued long into the night. There were speeches and toasts and songs in 100 different languages. The galaxy had been saved, and everyone wanted to honor the human who had saved it. But the real legacy of that day was not the celebration. It was a new understanding, a new respect, a new fear. In the years that followed, a saying spread among the species of the coalition. When a situation seemed hopeless, when all options had been exhausted, when there was no way to win, they would whisper it to each other like a prayer. Send word to the humans. Maybe one of them is angry enough. Because the galaxy had learned something important. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the. They did not have the biggest fleets or the most advanced technology. But they had something else. They had the will to fight when fighting was impossible. They had the stubbornness to keep going when everyone else had given up. They had the ability to look at an unbeatable enemy and decide, calmly and without doubt, that the enemy was going to die. And when a human said they would handle something alone, the galaxy had learned to step back and watch. Because whatever came next was going to be terrible and beautiful and absolutely final. Emma Vance retired from active service 1 year later. She spent her days on a quiet farm on Earth, far from the stars and the battles and the blood. Sometimes, at night, she would look up at the sky and remember. She remembered the Queen's eyes, full of confusion and fear in those final moments. She remembered the feeling of the singularity grenade in her hand. She remembered deciding that the needed to end. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the galaxy remembered too. They remembered the day a single human walked into the heart of an empire and burned it down. They remembered the day they learned why humans say, "I'll handle it solo." And they never forgot.